Mizzou Market on Hitt Street held its grand reopening on February 5th.
Poets battled it out for the title of Best Slam Poet in the Memorial Union on Sunday.
And Mizzou students did some pretty weird things over winter break.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of 23 News. Thanks for joining us. I'm Alyssa McKee.
And I'm Emma Henderson. You're watching MUTV 23 News. Get excited!
Mizzou Market made improvements to its location on Hitt Street. Christina Turner has the story.
Campus Dining hosted the grand reopening of Mizzou Market Hitt Street Tuesday in the newly renovated Pershing Hall. The celebration lasted from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. and offered free food. The event included chances to win a Nintendo Wii, iPads, MU Bookstar gift cards, and free Subway for a year for 5 students. Pershing Hall now includes a Subway sandwich shop, computer labs, and study space on the main floor. The Residential Hall Association, residential academic programs, and an MU police substation are on the bottom floor alongside conference rooms. Luke Gorham, an advisor for residential academic programs, says the renovations allow more students to enjoy available resources.
We got a chance to put an elevator in, so now the upper and lower level are more accessible for everyone. I think that's one of the main things that we thought about when doing that renovation, is to make sure that the space was going to be accessible, because before the renovation we only had stairs.
Anurag Chandan, a freshman, likes the atmosphere of the study space.
So it's like very welcoming, and you can do all your work over here at any time you want. And the best thing about Pershing is that it's open 24/7, which means that at any point of the night you feel like coming and working something, it's always open for you.
Mizzou Market Hitt Street is open 24/7 during the academic school year. For 23 News, I'm Christina Turner.
Thanks, Christina. SUPB hosted the first annual Poetry Slam in Memorial Union on Sunday. Sam Healy has the story.
The Student Union's Programming Board, otherwise known as SUPB, held its first annual Poetry Slam on Sunday in Memorial Union. SUPB member Liz Avance explained the goals of the organization.
We do events in Memorial Union and in the Student Center. They're usually smaller events. Most of our events have a takeaway with them.
3 poets, along with 1 video submission, entered into the competition. Famous hip-hop composer and slam poet Asia Lasar also entertained the crowd with several of her works. She expressed her enthusiasm for the talented poets.
Everybody who presented was very unique and different, and they all had their own stage presence, and the content was really good, so I was very pleased with all of the poets.
Avance hopes to build a competition in years to come.
It was great to have Asia come out from St. Louis, and we just thought it was a really neat idea, and we'll see if we can build more hype around it.
I'm Sam Healy, 23 News.
Thanks, Sam. The Central Missouri Returned Peace Corps volunteers hosted the Third Goal International Film Festival on February 2nd. Jacob Jones has the story.
We're here upstairs at the Mizzou Student Center with the Third Goal Film Festival program, an event put on by the Returned Peace Corps Volunteers of Missouri.
My name is Mike Burden. I'm the Film Festival Coordinator of the Third Goal International Film Festival.
Welcome to our film festival today.
It's an event we put on. It's the 7th annual. It started years ago with just Returned Peace Corps volunteers coming together and watching some films in somebody's basement just to get together, and decided, hey, we need to take this to the community.
The film festival, in its 7th year, welcomed a very special guest. Ulrich Brown, writer and director of this year's feature film Kinyarwanda, spoke to the crowd about his experience.
The third goal of being in the Peace Corps is being able to come back to the United States and share some of what you learned about other cultures, other places with Americans.
There was also a silent auction, an art show, and food from countries volunteers had visited.
You know, it's one thing to give a speech, it's one thing to give a talk or a lecture, but to engage in film and storytelling that connects an audience to those experiences takes that third goal to a whole nother level.
The Peace Corps will be hosting an informational session February 20th at 7 in the Career Center. Jacob Jones, 23 News.
Thank you, Jacob. What exciting things did you do over break? These students told us about the weird things they did in Ask Mizzou.
The coolest thing I did over break was...
Well, not anything bad.
That's either between chasing bears.
We saved a baby's life.
Doing the 500 backflip off the diving board into the fire.
Fight some rabbits.
I went to Venice Beach.
Hit a deer or two.
I went to the Mizzou, Illinois game.
Growing a beard.
I went to Wisconsin.
I got my wisdom teeth taken out.
That was pretty sick.
It was actually 5 weeks.
Went to St. Louis to visit friends.
Kind of walked around and everything.
I got plenty of Vicodin.
We went to Dave & Buster's.
We went to San Diego Zoo and we wrestled a cougar.
Oh yeah, every day.
I went ice skating during winter break and ran into the wall, kind of like busted on my face.
It was a good time.
I was very loopy.
An actual baby human, and then we wrestled the cougar.
Let's play some hockey in the kitchen.
It was fun, so why not?
I worked and made money. I snow skied for a week.
I did eat cheese actually from Wisconsin.
Give it a try sometime.
Conquered the world.
Road trip to Omaha.
Hang out with my family.
Planned my trip to the Dominican Republic for the summer.
I got to the top of Jesse Hall.
I got engaged.
Coming here to the States.
And then we wrestled the cougar so that it wouldn't kill the baby, and then we rescued babies.
Visiting my girlfriend.
I'm going on the ski trip.
Saved some lives, actually.
And we're, heroes.
I did it all, son. I did it all.
When we get back, Mike will discuss the controversial hiring of Larry James for a leadership position within the College of Education.
Don't leave just yet. It's about to get crazy.
The University of Missouri School of Education is looking for a new division executive director. It has come down to 2 candidates. Both have already completed the interview process on campus. But the past of one of the candidates has some community members, faculty, and students worried. I'm joined here by Mr. Jeff Stack of the Mid-Missouri Fellowship of Reconciliation against the hiring of Larry James, and Jacob Jones, a supporter of James's hiring. Thank you both for being here.
Good to be here.
I would like to start by asking you, Mr. Stack, why exactly are you against the hiring of Larry James?
Well, I think that Mr. James would tarnish the image of the University of Missouri. He was involved as the former military psychologist and he was in charge of working with detainees coming into Guantanamo Bay, the detention center, and also assisting Abu Ghraib prison. He really compromised his professional standing as a psychologist by allowing for softening, really finding vulnerabilities in the hundreds of detainees who came into Guantanamo, and finding the ways that they could be exploited to be easier targets for aggressive interrogation. Some would call it torture. But what he did was he crossed a professional threshold, behaved in a most unethical way. For him to come to the University of Missouri would sully the image of the university. You know, you want to have somebody in that kind of position of prominence and of leadership, someone who has high moral standard, not someone who's morally bankrupt. He hasn't been convicted of any crime, but that's a pretty sorry threshold to bring somebody into that kind of position and be supervising 60 people.
Right, okay. Mr. Jones, how do you think, if he were to be hired, how do you think he would affect Mizzou and the students in the School of Education?
Oh, I don't think it would affect it at all, simply because tarnishing the image of Mizzou, he's a decorated soldier of 22 years. I mean, I don't see that as being a negative at all. And the fact that he was a supervisor of inmates in Guantanamo Bay, I see that as being an unfortunate part of the war on terror. Yes, I mean, any war, any conflict is unfortunate, but what I see through all of that controversy is he was actually in the nitty-gritty, in the mud, you know, and he actually knows what he's talking about. If I were a psychology student, taking him as a psychology professor, I would want him teaching how this stuff really works over somebody who's just read a bunch of books. But to go along with that, he's not even in psychology. He's in the School of Education. So really why this whole debate, why we're even having this debate, it confuses me a little bit.
Mr. Stack, do you believe Mr. James is qualified for the job?
You know, he may have had some experience in his past that would qualify him, at least on the surface level. But I guess I'm kind of wondering about the university. My understanding from talking to people in the Department of Education that they had 6 applicants for the job. That's not much of a search for such a position of prestige in the university. And he was one of 2 finalists. You know, qualified or not, I don't think that he should be brought to the University of Missouri. The baggage that he brings is really frightening. I mean, the rest of the world sees what occurred at Guantanamo and at Abu Ghraib as a scourge, really. Many nations see it as torture that occurred, and it has really drug our nation through a cesspool internationally, caused a great deal of anger with our nation. And I think that it would put a cloud over our university. Mr. James also, in some other cases, in his own book, he wrote a book called Fixing Hell. In his book, he talked, for instance, about making some pretty unethical decisions. He was involved in bringing 3 youth, one as young as 12, the other ones were early teenagers, bringing them from Afghanistan to Guantanamo Bay while they were chained, hooded, in violation of international law. For several months, their parents did not know where they were. This is not a man that we need to have at the university in a position of prominence, someone who would be supervising and setting an example theoretically to the students and faculty.
Mr. Jones, the fact that there are allegations against Larry James cannot be ignored. If James is one of 2 candidates, why not just hire the other one instead of dealing with all the scrutiny and criticism? In other words, why pursue Larry James as a candidate?
Well, as my counterpart mentioned, there were 6 original contenders for the position. The fact that Mr. James is one of the top 2 finalists means he is one of, he's could do this position and could do it very well. So not hiring him just because he has a tarnished past, you could argue even tarnished. I mean, war is unethical in and of itself. I mean, if you are going to hold that against people, then why do we have an ROTC program where we're going to send kids, into the field to fight and potentially die protecting the United States? That's what Mr. James was doing, and now we're going to deny him a position with the university because he was protecting our freedoms? That I don't really understand that. So the fact that he's a finalist and is more than qualified. He was the Dean of Professional Psychology at Wright State University in Dayton, Ohio. He has, like I said, 22 years of military service. He was very decorated. He had a Bronze Star. I would be more than happy to take classes with him and to have him on our staff here at Mizzou.
Mr. Stack, in an interview with Nabiha Makbul at the protest on February 1st, she said it would be contradicting respect, one of Mizzou's core values, if they hired him. Would you agree?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, especially in terms of, thinking about the Muslim community in Colombia and Muslims who would come here from other parts of the world, to realize that this is a man who's supervising 60-some workers. It would cause me great, it shames me, quite frankly, and I think it shames the university. If I was a Muslim American coming here, I would be saddened that the university made such a decision. I think what I would encourage the School of Education to do is open the process up again. A national search should have brought in applications from a few hundred people, not 6. It seems to me that this process was rigged to begin with. My understanding is the dean of the school is a friend of Larry James. Is this what it's really about? I'm a little bit disturbed by that process. And, I'm a pacifist, so, I'm not that excited, quite frankly, about having the military on campus. I think this should be a demilitarized zone. That's my own perspective. We can have a discussion about that at another point in time. I have nothing against soldiers and individuals who serve this country, do the best that they can. But the sad reality is what happened at Guantanamo, what happened at Abu Ghraib, the torture that occurred to hundreds of people in Guantanamo in those 2 places, this is not something that served the best interests of the country. What happened instead, it has served as a lightning rod. It has inspired people to join the ranks of Al-Qaeda and other terrorist groups to fight against the United States because they're angered at the lack of respect that has been shown to people of Middle Eastern descent, Arab Americans, of people of Muslim faith. So by hiring Larry James, we are, in a way, it feels to me, promoting an anti-military perspective. He may have gotten a Bronze Star, but all kinds of people get war medals for travesties and for atrocities. It happens in war by the victors. That's kind of how it works out. The fact that Larry James wasn't formally charged with a crime is it's true, but there are other people who are being charged around the planet with war crimes that the U.S. has committed. And anyway, I carried on. Proceed, please.
Now, what about discovery, meaning to gain wisdom and understanding, and excellence, meaning to pursue the highest goals Mizzou envisions, also some of Mizzou's core values? Is it not possible for James, given the allegations, to give the School of Education more wisdom and understanding and help them pursue the goals Mizzou envisions? I mean, clearly the search committee and the School of Education think he is capable of representing the core values, not only while running the School of Education, but also improving it. What do you make of that?
I mean, I am perfectly fine. I would support, having him come to the school as a speaker. I mean, let him share his ideas. I think that's perfectly fine. But it seems to me some of those values that you spoke about, discovery, there's a lot of people who could qualify within that framework. But we're talking about someone who will be a role model for people in the School of Education. He has not been an individual who served in the best interests of a helping profession. Psychology is, it's meant to be a healing art, a healing profession. And Mr. James, we discover, is someone who did not adhere to those central core ideals. And so I think that while he has had a lot of experience, I think that this experience that took place in his active guidance at Guantanamo Bay Detention Facility and later on at Abu Ghraib in Iraq would undermine and would work against some of these core values.
Well, thank you for your time, Mr. Stack, Mr. Jones. Up next, our very own Spencer Wilson sits down with representatives from Rockin' Against Multiple Sclerosis to get an inside look on this campus-wide organization. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. I'm Spencer Wilson with Rockin' Against Multiple Sclerosis, a group on campus dedicated to raising money and awareness for the disease. All right, guys. So this disease has affected more than 2.1 million people. What prompted you guys to get this group started?
This group actually started in 1993 with a group of students just wanting to raise awareness and money for people with MS, and it's been a long-standing tradition on the campus. Awesome.
Can you explain to some of our viewers what MS is, actually?
Yeah, MS is a chronic disease that affects the central nervous system. Symptoms of it can range from just like a little bit of blurry vision to just complete paralysis. So basically what it really affects is people with MS just in their daily lives, just little daily routines. It makes it harder for them just to move around. And so what we work for is just to help them with little service projects that just make their lives easier.
And what's scary about MS is those symptoms can be just one day they're there and then one day they're gone, or they can be lasting forever, because how MS works is the pro-inflammatory cells actually go through your bloodstream and attack the nerve coating called myelin on your nerves, and so it can actually attack it long enough that you have permanent nerve damage.
Okay.
Because there's no way to repair.
Yeah, you can't really get
damage
into the brain. Yeah. Is there ways to test for MS?
Yes. There are ways to test for it, but there's currently no cure for it. There's only medicines that can alter the course and try to slow down the symptoms or stop them, try to maybe make it a little easier.
So that might be where some of your funding might go into, would be researching a cure.
Well, actually, our money goes straight for people with MS, so it goes to the actual patients.
Okay.
So it goes towards like cooling vests, because heat affects people with MS a lot and it makes symptoms worse. So cooling vests for, I know there's a high school boy that we just bought him a cooling vest.
Can you explain what a cooling vest is?
It's literally just a vest that you put ice packs in, sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're pretty cheap, but so we buy a lot of those for various people. We've renovated a bathroom before. We put money towards wheelchairs, things like that.
Okay, perfect. Now, I know you guys have some events coming up. What are some of those that you'd like to highlight?
Well, we definitely want to talk a little bit about our new events this year, because we do have some new ones. Our first one is Downtown Awareness Day, which actually was last night. Basically, we sold bracelets before the event. They're awareness bracelets. They look like this. And people could buy these bracelets. And then we partnered with some local restaurants in the community that offered us just kind of discounts, maybe a free something from their restaurant. Like we had slices of pizza, crab rangoon rolls, all kinds of things. And so people would go out last night, just kind of help raise awareness, hang out at the restaurants, and just have a good time supporting MS.
Okay. Also, I was in the student center yesterday. I saw a cage. Was that you guys?
That was us, yes.
Okay.
That's Jail and Bail. It's an event where basically we have we have 2 volunteers from the participating organizations that come, and one person is in jail and the other person is walking around asking for donations to help raise money to get their person out of jail.
Okay.
So that is what the cage is. And we actually, tomorrow is our celebrity day, so we have some cool celebrities that are going to come in and be in jail, and so we encourage everyone to bring maybe a few extra dollars with them to help get some of our Mizzou celebrities out of jail.
Perfect. That's awesome.
We have a couple other new events too, like Rockin' Bowl. So it's basically a big giant bowling event, and the Baboons, who frequent Harpo's, will be playing there from 1 to 3 on Saturday. And we also have Mike Night, which is a new event next Thursday, the 21st, and the Student Union Programming Board is helping us put that on here in the Shack.
Oh, perfect. Well, it seems like you guys have a lot of stuff going on then.
Yep. Those
Perfect.
are just the new events. So.
Do you have any other last finishing statements you wanted us to know about Rams?
Just the events that are coming up that people can still kind of get involved in, is, like she said, Mike Night. Auditions for that are February 16th, so you can email our account if you want to get involved in that in addition. And then Mike Night is actually the 21st, so that's not tomorrow, but next Thursday. And then also our biggest event is Rocket, which is essentially a lip syncing and dance competition between organizations, and that's probably our most well-known event. So even if you can't participate in the dance or lip syncing, we encourage everyone to come out to the Blue Note, just support the organizations that are. It's a great way to just raise awareness and show your support.
Perfect. You mentioned an email. Do you know that email off the top of your head?
Yeah,
it's rockinagainstms@gmail.com, or you can visit our website at rockinagainstmultiplesclerosis.com, and if you can't spell that, you can just Google Mizzou Rams and it'll come up.
That'll do it for our interview for Rockin' Against Multiple Sclerosis in this week's episode of 23 News. Be sure to check out our Facebook page and our Twitter, and email us with comments or questions at 23news.mutv@gmail.com. Be sure to stop by the front of the Student Center this week on Friday for Ask Mizzou. For 23 News, I'm Spencer Wilson. Keep it real, Tigers.